officially start when we get the word from our. Oh,
That sounds like a commercial.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but it can't be because I don't have it on. That's somewhere else.
Okay, we had some
Maybe
technical difficulties, but we should be live.
Should be live.
Oh, that's good news.
It's better
We're
than
live.
we should be dead, right?
should be.
live.
We should be.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead as if we are live, right, Susie? You're
As
live.
we go on with the show.
Are you alive?
I'm
I'm
live.
alive. Mark?
No,
No, Mark's not, a little early. Monty, you
Where's
ready?
Monty?
Monty's gone.
Monty's got coffee time for Monty. Tom Trento here with,
Susie Gold. Good morning.
and today I think we may do a replay of one of our shows from 2014. We've been reviewing some of our archives, and basically it's the same show on the Jew hatred, the Hamas, and same thing. Nothing
It's the
new.
same story, just a different year.
Nothing new under the sun, but we got a great show. We have Dr. Roni Wexler coming up in a few minutes, an Israeli American born in Israel, fought in the 1967 war, recapturing Jerusalem, first time in thousands of years. And then he fought in 1973, started heritage study programs with a desire to bring Jews and Christians together. And over these 30-something years, he's taken over 100,000 people. The three of us
very
have
successful.
been part of that.
That's right.
And we are going back. We didn't go with COVID year. We're not going this year. We're going next year.
Going
for
next
sure.
year.
Gonna start
Come
promoting
join
that.
us. Go on the unitedwest.org and you'll get up-to-date information when the message goes out about our next trip. You'll want to come
You
with
wanna
us.
come,
There
for
is
sure.
no trip like it.
And then we'll have a little later, we'll have John Guandolo, good friend of ours, been to Israel with us many times, former special agent FBI, former Marine, Force Recon Combat Marine. After he left the Bureau in about 2011, I think it was, after 11 years. He was one of the individual developing the training material in the Muslim Brotherhood, who they are internationally and what their role is in the United States, trained the FBI. And then President Obama came in and said, no, we'll have none of that. Muslim Brotherhood's they disavowed.
They're good
terror.
guys.
Good guys. So John will be here in a little bit. And the big idea for today is Jew hate. Why is anti-Semitism, which is really, I don't know, you like the term anti-Semitism or?
Well,
Jew
it's our
hate?
word. I mean, the word was invented because of the Jews. So there's others that want to steal our word, but that's our word because that's what anti-Semitism, they would say, will be the Semites, which are from that region of the Middle East. So, but that's our word. So don't steal our word.
Our
There are
word,
other-
you being a Jewish person.
Jewish
woman.
person, that's right. But it's not happily that I say that. But unfortunately, there's been Jewish hatred throughout the generations. It goes back 4,000 years. And every generation, we have somebody or some group or some country or some group, some numbers of people that are just hate Jews. And you can't explain it. There is no way
Why?
to
How?
understand
Where?
it.
What's going on? Why does this exist? I don't know. That's what
Yeah.
we try to deal with today.
Yeah, we wish that we can understand that, but there is, we used to be called some very terrible names, and now that's coming back again.
And we're going to take a look at the Jew hatred going on in Israel and the Arab street slowly boiling, calls for an intifada. We're going to learn what that term means from Roni Wexler. And then we're also going to look at what's going on here in the United States. Tomorrow's show, John Guandolo wrote an extensive piece analyzing the Hamas in Gaza and the Hamas in Texas. The Hamas in Gaza and the Hamas in Texas. And he analyzes and deconstructs the two groups and makes the argument that it's the same Hamas that's using rockets in Gaza. It's the same Hamas using the political system and the street in the state of Texas. And where are the officials? To the point where the Hamas in Texas looks like they're going to get Al-Eid Fitr, the celebration, the Muslim celebration, as a state holiday in the state of Texas. So John will be here today on Jew hatred. Tomorrow, John will be here the whole hour on the Hamas jihadis in the state of Texas, which happens to be, Mark, we have a little experience with jihadis in the state of Texas.
Yeah,
Remember?
just a little bit.
A little bit. Back in 2015, two of them start shooting at the building we were in, holding a conference. So, hey, nothing new under the sun. Tom Trento, 9:07 in the morning, and we're working, Susie Gold. You showed me. What did you show me in my Golan this morning?
Yeah, so Mai Golan was actually speaking at the Knesset, and Mai Golan is she is an MK representative,
Member of the Knesset, yeah.
member of the Knesset.
She's been in the
And
studio.
she was here in the studio. We've met her several times before, and we met her before she won the seat. But she's a young woman, under 30, I believe. But she is extremely passionate about what has occurred within Israel with regard to the immigrants that are coming in that were really brought in, which are causing havoc within Israel. They are Somalis, and they're brought in by what she said was from Soros, and he brought them in through the south. And through the opening of the border through Gaza, and they went into neighborhoods that were very poor, and they're causing there's thieves among them, there's rapes, there's havoc that has not occurred in those areas before, and these for poorer regions. Anyway, she wanted to serve in the Knesset because she felt that she just wants to save our homeland. She wants to save Israel. Very passionate. Anyway, she spoke before Knesset, and she showed a Chumash, which is the Torah, that she was holding it up, and it was burnt because it was burnt from a synagogue that Hamas, when they launched their missiles, went into a synagogue, and it did burn the Chumash, and she held it up before the Knesset, extremely passionate, expressing her frustration and what occurred during this horrible, horrific war with Hamas. And actually, she was so passionate, and she was escorted out of.
They took her down. They grabbed the
Chumash.
and
so we need to have Mai
down.
Golan, and so
she was going to come on a few days ago, and then got involved in the war and all of that. So we'll try to have her on this week also. But right now, let's bring in our two special guests. We'll give you each about 2 minutes for an opening statement. Then we'll start getting into the material. Let's start with the elder citizen. The elder citizen, Dr.
Don't go to John first.
No, don't go to John first. The elder citizen, that's a sign of recognition, of wisdom,
yeah, it's
knowledge and brilliance.
And he is brilliant and very knowledgeable.
And what else? Got any other adjectives?
Just great great insights.
Great insight. Dr. Roni Wexler, good morning. Give us a 2-minute opening statement. We'll go to John, then we'll come back and go through the material today. Going to be a great show.
Good morning to everybody. Good morning to you, John, too. I haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah. Well, what can I say? Secretary of State Blinken is in the Middle East. I'm not sure he ever been to the Middle East before, but he's there to get things in order. That's a funny statement by itself. Well, situation in the Middle East is grim. It seems like nobody exactly knows what's going on, though there is a direction here. Because what happened in Gaza and Israel is a battle to win, I would say, the court of public opinion. And it doesn't matter how many people die in Gaza or how many people die in Israel. The fact that Israel can protect itself better than those in Gaza makes no difference. The visual is what counts. So if you can produce a lot of dead bodies, that wins you public opinion. If you are smart enough to know how to protect yourself and you don't produce too many bodies in your camp, then you lose it. So I guess Secretary of State Blinken, who just met a few minutes ago with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, knew how to direct Israel in the right direction, and apparently peace will come, and he will resolve the issues, including the president that sent him there. And what can I say? Let's all sit together and have a kumbaya moment.
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
John Guandolo, You've been with us in the Middle East and in Israel, but you had a career before you met us, and actually during the time you met us, working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, traveling. Give us a 2-minute intro of your background in the Middle East, chasing these guys, and then developing the material that you used at the Bureau to teach people about the Brotherhood. And then after your opening, we'll get into the issue today, the Jew hatred going on in Israel, in the Middle East, growing, developing, and here in the States.
All right. First of all, good morning, and thanks for having me. And great to see you too, Ronnie. Glad to be on with you. I think it's worth starting out by saying, for your audience, which probably knows this, but for those who do not, Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization designated by the United States and others, is an inherent part of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is an inherent part of the Muslim Brotherhood. So that's important. So when you see Hamas, you are necessarily seeing the Muslim Brotherhood. So when we talk about the Muslim, or when some people talk about the Muslim Brotherhood being nonviolent, political, etc., that is simply not true. Just because they have an aspect to them where they wear suits and they at the moment aren't shooting people doesn't make the Muslim Brotherhood nonviolent. They've been violent since their inception. It is in their bylaws that they're called to wage war against those who don't accept Allah's divine law, the Sharia. The whole thing that we're looking at here in Israel is the global Islamic movement in this moment in the form of Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, attacking Israel because it's a command in Islam to impose Sharia, Allah's divine law, on the world. My background is as an FBI agent post 9/11 in the counterterrorism division at the Washington field office in the FBI, working cases, major threat cases and major investigations, and through those investigations coming to understand that in fact there is a significant Islamic network in the United States, primarily controlled by the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood, the North American Muslim Brotherhood, which has as a part of who they are Hamas. And it has been the Hamas leaders in the United States that have led the Islamic movement here up until recently, when they started turning the reins of control over to President Erdogan of Turkey and the Turkish Muslim Brotherhood, which we can talk about later.
All right, so what we have, folks, and Suzi here, we have an Islamic global movement.
Mhm.
Nothing new about that. It's been going on for 1,400 years. But every so often, 7 years, 4 years, 3 years, whatever, usually out of the Middle East, whether it's Syria with the Islamic State, all of that, or whether it's out of Israel in Jerusalem or Gaza, there's a flare up. And the Brotherhood seizes that moment to extend and develop its control over the Muslim world, totaling about 1.3 billion. So today's show, we're gonna talk to these experts about what's going on in Israel with the Brotherhood through Hamas agitating the Palestinian Authority in Judea, Samaria, but the worldwide call by Hamas, who we're going to ask Ronnie if they won this war against Israel the past 2 weeks, whether or not what we're seeing in the United States is an anomaly of the rioting and fighting in the streets of Arabs attacking Muslims, attacking Jews, or whether that's part and parcel of this Islamic global movement. And what do we do about it? Ron, you're Jewish, you lived with Jew hatred for a long time. You fought against people with weapons who hated you, wanted your destruction. When you sit back and look at what's going on, I know you're committed to bringing people together in peace, but when you see this, what goes through your heart? when you look at the situation, all these years you've been dealing with it? What goes through your heart?
Well, it is a difficult question because I'm a Jew and Israeli. To see America comes alive rioting with plaques that say Palestinian life matter, adopting Black Life Matter, and create a slogan that is very catchy. And people that absolutely have no idea what the situation in the Middle East is join because they do win the hearts and minds of people around the world because Israel became David, and they became Israel became the Goliath, and they became the David. So when Israel is weak, seems like world opinion sides with the weak, and when Israel is strong, and we have to understand that the power of Israel, the military of Israel, is one of the world's best armies, and they can inflict damage. But seeing this narrative comes alive. And my own children, when they went to school, told me that in universities, they had people that had no connection to anything that happens in Israel. They weren't Arabs, they weren't Muslims, they didn't even know too many Muslims. But effectively, they took part in this narrative because it's very catchy. So to put dolls covered with sheets and spread some red color on it as if it was bloodied by the Jew killing children in Gaza or the West Bank, sounded very good. And this youth in different places are coming together. We can say the same thing about the Democrat Party. There's the old guard that I assume still try to protect Israel, or they are not against Israel. And then you see the squad and the younger generation, the young guard, are turning their back from Israel. So I would say that, yeah, the Palestinians, Hamas, are winning the battle of the court of public opinion and so on and so forth. The interesting part, and I think John we can elaborate on it too, is that the Brotherhood, which is one demon, is now working together with the other demon, which is Iran, and somehow there's the unholy alliance that came together because they have a bigger hunt to go after, which is a Jew and Israelis. It's a very interesting situation that I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about it later on. But as an Israeli, I feel very bad. I feel very bad that I go to synagogue in Boca Raton, Florida, and I have a gun tucked in my belt. It's very sad. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Tom, we lost your sound.
Well,
I
we'll-
think they started to echo and we lost sound from them.
Okay. From the body language of Tom, I understand that John, he wants us to carry on with the conversation here. So have you got anything to say to what I just mentioned?
Well, yes, I think that what you've just said is right on the mark. We have the International Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas working together with Iran. And let me explain that. Both Hamas directly working with Iran. Iran is the leading funder for Hamas, which is interesting because Iran, of course, is a Shia Muslim nation, and the Muslim Brotherhood, like their offshoots, the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, those are Muslim Brotherhood leadership, meaning Al-Qaeda's leadership come from Muslim Brothers, but Hamas is actually, as I mentioned earlier, an inherent part of the Brotherhood. So you've got Iran working directly with Muslim Brotherhood leadership. You had the leader of Hamas the weekend before last met with the Al-Quds force leader, meeting directly and discussing the ongoing, at the time, war in Israel. So on the international level, you have the leadership of the global Islamic movement, which is Turkey, because Turkey is going to be at the center of, and is at the center of this global movement, like the Ottoman Empire, becoming again the center of the global Islamic Caliphate, Erdogan being the leader. So you have Iran, Turkey, and Qatar all working together. So you have at the international leadership level, the Muslim Brotherhood working with Iran. At the Hamas level, you've got Iran directly funding Hamas and is the largest funder of Hamas. So you see them mutually supporting each other. And then, of course, at the international level, in Israel and in the United States and North America, you've got Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood working directly at the ground level, quite frankly. So I would love to see the intel, which I have not yet seen from the Israelis, on the direct material support from Iran to Hamas. Now, of course, we know the United States government has given hundreds of millions of dollars to Iran directly, both from the Obama administration and now from the Biden administration supporting. You have Joe Biden saying he's going to, quote, rebuild Gaza, and that in fact he's in favor of the two-state solution. So you've got this moral relativism that what Hamas is doing, is bad, and what Israel's doing is bad, and both sides there's good, both sides there's bad. This is nonsense. Only one side has a self-proclaimed doctrine, which is being put up on the screen for everybody, the Hamas covenant, that they exist to wage jihad and destroy Israel. Israel has never officially said, nor have they implied in government communications, that they exist to destroy anybody. They exist to defend their citizens' right to have a free life, to have a free market system, and to live their lives. So that has to be brought out. And where do the components of the Hamas constitution come from? Well, it comes from core Islamic doctrine, normative and universally accepted Islamic doctrine. That's where the Hamas covenant comes from. And we have to understand that what normative and universally accepted and taught Islamic doctrine, by the way, to include in US Islamic schools, calls for the destruction of Israel, calls for the killing of all Jews, calls for the destruction of the Christian church, and leaves only a few options. And that is, if you are a non-Muslim, you must convert to Islam. And if you're a Jew and a Christian, you get that bonus option to submit to Islamic law and pay the non-Muslim poll tax. If you don't do one of those two things, Islam commands Muslims to wage war against you. And the lack of truthful dialogue in this, the fact that the world community called for a ceasefire once Israel started kicking Hamas's butt, I think is outrageous. I think it's outrageous that Israel went into a ceasefire with Hamas. They had the upper hand, and they should have continued crushing them until Hamas was destroyed.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't find any difference of opinion
Yeah.
in this studio. I got one quick question for you, John. Then Suzi wants to show Roni a picture and wants Roni's view of that picture. And
Go ahead.
what we can do is put up the leaders of Hamas, and then that picture will show you who it is. And we want Roni's input. You were going to do that before we had a little.
Well, I got one little input to add just before that.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna play it now.
hold this for a second.
يعني سنكون مع
Good, good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hold this for a second. We'll play this after we show the picture. We got a lot of stuff going on here.
We have a lot of videos
We
to
got a lot of
show.
stuff. 9:26 in the morning. Tom Trento with Suzi Gold here. Our special guest, Dr. Roni Wexler, Israeli American, who leads our tours. John Guandolo, former special agent with the FBI. John, the question, and give me a quick answer on this, because then we're going to go to these visuals, which are very interesting. You said Turkey wants to regain the preeminence of the caliphate, the leadership of the Islamic world. I think they're Sunnis. I think they're on the Sunni side of the ledger, but they're working with Iran, who are Shia, and there's a major theological battle where they slice each other's throats whenever they can. How could Iran and Turkey work together?
Well, in the same way that Iran, Shia, worked with Al Qaeda, Sunni, in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, Iran in Iraq was supplying mortars and weapons, ammunition to the ground fighters there. And why? And at the same time, by the way, I might add, they can provide that kind of material support while a Sunni Muslim attacks the Iranian embassy in Lebanon. And the purpose of this is, if you understand, Muslims can work together against the non-Muslim community in one area and fight each other in another. There's no discrepancy there. And while to our Western brain, that might seem confusing, it's not confusing to them. They are the Sunni and the Shia. Because of the law, the Sunni must eviscerate and do away with the Shia. But they can work together and put that aside momentarily to destroy and fight the un-Islamic governments and the non-Muslims.
Suzi, maybe it starts with the picture you have there.
Interesting. Are we going to show that?
Yeah.
Here, is this yeah. So you know what? It's really interesting. I don't know if anyone had the opportunity to listen to Geraldo Rivera, where he was on the Hannity show, and he was screaming and saying, "I demand a ceasefire, the poor Palestinian children." So Roni, I'd love for you to weigh in on what is happening with the poor Palestinian children in Gaza. What is it? How are they being taught? And what is it? How are they being manipulated and used through all of these wars?
And this gentleman holding up the child with the AK-47 there he is, Yahya Sinwar. He's one of the Hamas he's on the political side. Well, this is political speech, I guess. Ron, you look at this picture, and this is a kid in Gaza. We'll go back to the picture. What does that picture say to you, Ron?
It tells me that there's no peace in the distance. These kids are being indoctrinated from the day they are born, and we heard mothers saying that they are willing to die and kill and have their children killed as martyrs for the sake of Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem. So how do you win a war that, or even talk to somebody that's from age 0, hate you and declare day in and day out that they're about to destroy you? The thing that they have going for them is they have all the time in the world, and we Jews like to see things happen very quickly. As John said, you know, we should have continued to go after the Hamas in Gaza and not submit ourselves to a ceasefire. Well, John, I understand you, but Israel is in a position that we are an island in the world. You know, when America goes to war, America goes with full might, and that they have all the resources. Israel, as much as it is a great army, we still depend on I wouldn't say world opinion, but help in terms of munitions and spare parts for airplanes and so on and so forth. So when you have a president like President Trump giving Israel backing every step of the way, yeah, I can see Israel saying, no, we're going all the way. But when a demand in Washington, D.C. is to stop supporting Israel, not supporting, stop supplying Israel for things Israel already bought. And the unbelievable story here that Israel bought precision armament to go directly after individuals and places in order not to create too much collateral damage. They are after stopping this kind of munition. So if to say, well, Israel, go with blind munition and kill everybody inside, so it doesn't make any sense anymore. So to answer your question, Tom, what do I see there? I see that this is for the long run. Again, you know, we're going to see it happen again in 2-3 years. I participated already in 2 major wars and a few skirmishes in Israel when I served and went into my reserve duty. Nobody wants to see it. Everybody in Israel loves their children, and I believe everybody in Israel wants to see peace. I believe nobody in Israel wants to see war because we can't afford it. We can't afford it. We are a small country. Financially, we are not there to stop ourselves from going on with life and participate in ongoing war. I can tell you that today I heard in the morning that the cost of this 11 days war to the Israeli government, to just the financial burden to help the people that didn't go to war is in the billions. So we can't do that. And unfortunately, that's the case.
Right. And so now, Ronnie, what we have is the next generation of Palestinians that are taught to kill the Jew, go behind the tree and stab the Jew, kill the Jew. And then, of course, it's kill the Christians and then everybody else. So now they're brainwashing the next generation that it's okay to be violent. It's okay to kill. And we actually have a video to show that Mark will set up, and it's a Sesame Street video.
Hold on. A minute. We're going to play a little game called Let's Make a Deal, where you get to choose door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. Door number 1 is video 1 is Hamas children TV program again calls for the slaughter of Jews. Door number 2 is Hamas kindergarten graduation ceremony. Door number 3 is Hamas to kids shoot all the Jews. Which one do you guys want to see?
All 3.
They're all equally bad, but this is what the Palestinians, many of the Arabs are teaching their children.
Which one?
The first one.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is in a school of Palestinian children, and we know that they dress up as militia with guns, like 3-year-olds with guns and dressed in all the garb of war. And you'll see, if you just Google, you'll see all kinds of pictures. Here we go. This is
لا في يهود ولا في صهاينة. خلاص كلهم مدحرين دحر. ويصير كل عيدنا زي ما بنروح على الكعبة زيارة يا سراء، بصير العالم كلهم يجوا وين زيارة على القدس. شو بدك تسوي لليهود اللي طخوا بابا؟ ايش بدك تسوي لهم؟
بدي اقتلهم.
زي ما قتلوا بابا.
احنا نسوي شيء، احنا بدنا نطردهم بس من ارضنا.
بدنا احنا نذبحهم يا سراء عشان يطردوا من ارضنا اكيد.
ما هو بدنا يعني نطردهم من ارضنا
ما هو اذا ما ردوش بالسلام ولا بالكلمة ولا بالحدوتة لازم بالشحن.
Yeah, by slaughter. So, Ronnie, I'd like you to weigh in on this type of education that's occurring, not just in Gaza, but in many of the Arab countries, and even here in the United States. So, how do you weigh in? Here you are. You spoke about how we're fighting a power now, and we should have gone in there and suggest to the Israelis, and most Israelis felt that the IDF should go in and get rid of Hamas. Well, what do we do about the next generation?
Well, there's very little to do, and in Israel, unfortunately, we learn how to live with this problematic way of life. I don't think any country in the world had to endure this kind of onslaught of hate. What it is what you said before. It's anti-Semitism in a different form. I don't think these Arabs are looking, as you said, looking to gain the land of Israel anymore. It's to destroy all the Jews. That's the final answer. There's no difference between this and Nazi Germany that did the same thing. And many a times you see the equivalent between Nazis and Nazi propaganda and Arab propaganda. What John said before, that these people align together, although they don't believe in the same way of worship and so on and so forth, is the enemy of your the enemy of your enemy is your friend, and that's it. So they come together. How do I feel about this? I feel terrible. But when you show this to a kid in Israel, how does he need to react? This is crazy, and I blame Israel. Inability to show this kind of thing to the world. Maybe we can. Maybe we can't win. I don't know. Maybe we have to be strong and just to hold on to what we have. But I don't see an end to this. And as John said before, when the proclamation is to destroy on the manifest, to destroy Israel is the main reason for their existence. Who do you have to talk to?
Where do you go?
Like that.
Mhm.
Where do you go? Exactly. Hey, Tom Trento here on, what is it, Tuesday, May 25th.
May 25th
Suzi,
already.
Man, Suzi Gold was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, as was John. John was there.
Yep.
Neither of them were part of the
No.
insurrection.
We didn't go into Congress.
We're doing a little documentary on the foolishness of the insurrection term. But today, on Tuesday, 9:38 on the East Coast, we bring you two of our dear friends, two subject matter experts, Dr. Roni Wexler and John Guandolo. We're talking about the essential concept of Jew hatred. Why, where, how, from, and we're showing it in the context of the global Islamic movement. Mark, I just sent you a photograph that I want you to put up, and I want our investigator, our former FBI investigator, to see if there's any clues in this photo. Now, this is from, you know who sent this? Midwest Dick. All right.
Yay,
Midwest Dick.
Dick.
Our buddy Midwest Dick had us out in Michigan in 2017 to do some work with a gentleman who was running on the Democrat side to become governor. And we did our work. He didn't get the nomination. Gretchen Whitmore, whatever her name is, she got it. She's got her own problems right now. But we're going to ask John in a moment if he can give some clues to the audience from this photo. You ready, John?
Sure.
All right, let's throw the picture up. Former investigator, current investigator, runs Understanding the Threat with a lot of investigations. But draw back on your FBI skills. Can you interpret that picture for us, please?
It looks like a Boy Scout gathering. Well, there is an individual showing the oneness, the Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. You've got a Sharia adherent, probably a scholar, standing right behind him. And yeah, that looks like the former candidate for governor of Michigan too.
It is. It's Mohammed Abdul Rahman El Sayed. He is the former candidate for governor in the state of Michigan. He was the director of health services. He's a doctor. He's now a.
Of course he is.
And all right, let me throw this at you, John. When these guys finish their political career, what network do they wind up on as a subject matter analyst?
Well, besides the Hamas TV, Al Jazeera, which is one and the same, or CNN.
CNN. Yeah, and MSNBC. He's on all the networks as their go-to expert for moderate Islam in the United States of America. Now, Midwest Dick.
And what groups do they usually join and give the answer to?
What's that?
The council one.
Oh, CARE. We didn't even get into CARE yet, but we'll do that. But Mark, put this up. Midwest Dick sent this morning. And John, we want your general comments on this. And for our audience, 9:41 in the morning, we're going to end at 10 o'clock today. Our air conditioner broke. It's
Yeah,
500
it's
degrees in
getting
here.
very warm in here.
Our air conditioner broke, Susie. What does that mean?
Yeah, you know what we need? This is my cue to beg. Please make donations to the UnitedWest.org. Here we are sitting, there's no air conditioning. We're dripping. I said, I don't mind the heat. I don't mind it, but my hands are dripping. But not only that, we need a new laptop. As you saw earlier, there was a disconnect. And that's because we're using a laptop that's probably about 10 years old. I mean, really, if we
And
were
Mark needs an
working
alarm
on the
clock.
other side, there would be no question donations would pour in. If you want to save America, you want to help save Israel, help us get the information out there so that other people will make donations. And also we're creating awareness. We're bringing in subject matter experts from all over the world. No network is doing what we're doing. None. What you're doing is you're getting all of these extremists and CARE and Hamas on mainstream media who are the experts. And we have a big war to fight. And one major war we need to fight is a PR war. So you need us. You need us to do what it is that we're doing. You need our guests that are on our show. So please help us fix our electricity. Help us to get a new laptop.
Or I take my shirt off.
This isn't about salaries. We don't care. We have a mission. We have a mission, and that is to make sure that the word gets out, the facts, the truth gets out. So please help us make a generous donation to the UnitedWest.org today.
Amen. Amen. Now, tomorrow's show, we have John Guandolo on doing an analysis of a letter of an article he wrote. We'll have you introduce that before the end of the show, John. But right now, Midwest Dick also sent a brilliant article by our friend Daniel Greenfield. We got to get him on the show too. We're going to put it up, John, and it says Biden brings in Islamic activists to investigate U.S. military for extremism.
This gets more and more bizarre. It's insanity.
You read this article and your heart breaks for this country.
It's insanity.
Biden has been snookered. Look, we all got problems with him, but this is beyond comprehension. John, you served in the United States Marine Corps and you were part of the FBI. Give the audience a quick analysis of what Greenfield's article means to freedom-loving Americans.
Well, first of all, I think once again, Daniel has done a great job with this article in a simple fashion, sharing a very, very important piece of this puzzle. And you've got Hina Shamsi, who is a part of the Holy Land Foundation, which was at the time it was indicted in November 2001, the largest Islamic charity in the United States. And it turns out it was a front for the group Hamas. And you just mentioned CARE. So let me give like a 15-second historical reminder to your audience. In the end of the 1980s, the International Muslim Brotherhood put out an order to every Muslim Brotherhood organization in the world. And at the time, they were in over 80 countries to create nodes for Hamas. And these nodes were called Palestine sections or committees. So the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood created the U.S. Palestine Committee, and they initially created three organizations: the Islamic Association of Palestine, the United Association for Studies and Research, sounds benign, and the Occupied Land Fund, which eventually was renamed the Holy Land Foundation. All three were Hamas organizations, and they were all shut down. The fourth, created in 1994, was called the Council on American Islamic Relations. And somehow it continues to operate this many years later, even though the evidence that they are a Hamas organization is massive. And I encourage people, go to understandingthethreat.com and right on our homepage, there's a box that says Karis Hamas. Just click it and share that with your local leaders and with patriots so they know exactly the facts. So first of all, this woman worked with the Holy Land Foundation, knowingly worked with a Hamas group, knowingly defended Guantanamo Bay jihadis, terrorists from Al Qaeda and elsewhere. And now that's the person that the US government thinks should help root out extremism in our military. And obviously, she's not going to go after the jihadis in the military, like the jihadi who killed 14 people at Fort Hood, or the jihadi who threw a grenade in a tent full of officers in Iraq. She's not going after those people. She's going after patriots. And that's the whole point of this. And this is where we are in this war. And we can say what we want about Joe Biden. He doesn't get to say, oh, I don't know. And I'll make this quick argument. When you swear an oath of office to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, the legal standard in the United States is that you either know all enemies or do a due diligence search to know all enemies. And a simple, unclassified research about who Hina Shamsi is, who the Holy Land Foundation is, shows that she, at a minimum, is a hostile supporter of Hamas and has no business being in the US government. But we could articulate that about a number of people serving in the US government today anyway.
And we will. Tomorrow, we're going to take this article by Daniel Greenfield and your article, understandingthethreat.com. Introduce your article, because we're going to let you go. We know you have to go to another meeting, and we're going to go back to Roni. Introduce your article that we're going to take a look at tomorrow.
Well, the article simply says the same Hamas that was rocketing Israel, the same Hamas that calls for the destruction of Israel, is the same Hamas in the United States that is doing the same thing, just in a little different way. And I focus on Dallas, Texas, and Texas in general because of what's happened just in the last week in Texas. And there is so much going on with the jihadis and specifically Hamas, and we're going to break down some of those specifics here
On tomorrow's show. John Guandolo, thank you very, very much for
Thank
taking
you, John.
time. And you look
Thanks
good
for
in
having-
the suit. You look
Yeah.
good in the suit, man. Let me
Yeah, he's
tell you.
looking
You're
sharp.
looking sharp. Yeah.
I do what I can. Great to be on with you, Ronnie. God bless you all, and thank you for having me.
All
Thanks
right,
for
take
coming
care.
on.
Bye-bye. Well,
Well, I just want to reiterate the fact that what John said about CARE was founded by Musa Abu Mazurk. He's the architect of CARE. And he's the one, I mean, we've been doing this for a long while, Tom. And if we come back to our Breitbart article that we did years ago, we look at it here, I'll put it on the main screen. And Tom, I'll just have you, all you have to do is just read the screen. You look at this.
This was in Breitbart, what, 2014?
Yes.
Tom Trento presents FBI smoking gun evidence of the Palestine Committee, which oversaw and ran the Holy Land, and that's just the lead in.
Yeah, but
It's
the
a,
article's on the big screen here, the Breitbart article.
It's
yeah,
above this.
yeah, the Breitbart article's there. The point is, we've been doing this a long time, and these same clowns keep showing up.
Hamas is CARE.
Yeah, CARE,
is
yeah.
Hamas.
And that's the essence of tomorrow's show with John, who happens to live in the state of Texas. Put up for Ronnie the key leaders in the Hamas right now. And we're going to show our audience that Hamas is being run by about 10 guys. Many on this list are deceased. What does that mean? Deceased.
They're gone.
They're
They're
gone.
neutralized.
They're no longer with us. They got deceased. But I want to point out one guy, Mohammed Deef, here,
I gotta get it.
once we put him up. And leading into that, Ron,
This guy?
there's tremendous, no,
The one with
The,
there, this one here.
the key leaders. Yeah, right here. Here's the key leaders coming up. And Ishmael Haniyeh, he said the other day, there's not going to be peace. It's a ceasefire. It's not peace. He made that statement. Khalil Mashal, they change their positions every few years, but they're all running Hamas. Some are hiding in Qatar, some are in Turkey, some are buried in Gaza somewhere. But Mohammed Deef over here on the right, that's a old photo of him. He hasn't been seen for a while. How do I know? Because he has two eyes. And today he only has one eye. And guess how many arms and legs he has? None. He has no arms and no legs. He was, enemy number one for Israel, and they hit him a few years back. He survived. His stump is in a wheelchair. And no, there are no current pictures. That's the most current picture. He is running the military operations for Hamas, and he is a god for the Muslim world, the Islamic world, because he survived all these attacks from Israel. So Ron.
And Marzouk is running for America. He's running this guy here.
Musa Mohammed Abu Marzouk. He is an early guy, started early. He's got the zabiba in his head. You can see banging his head on his prayer carpet. That's a sign of preeminence. Last time we looked, he was a billionaire, billion with a B.
And he's the guy right there that founded Hamas.
Yeah, he was one of the chief architects of the Hamas 1994 after Oslo 1993. Ron, these guys are in the Middle East, basically creating all kinds of problems in Israel. One of the key problems now is the Arab street. The young Arabs have been energized by Hamas as opposed to the PA. Sort that out. And what is Israel going to do to calm things down?
Well, I don't know what Israel can do to calm things down, though throughout the war on Gaza the last couple of weeks, Israel declared over and over again, and all the commentary pointed out that Israel does not want to take Hamas out. Israel wants to keep Hamas alive. And the question being asked is, after everything we heard now in the last hour, why would that be the case? Well, I guess it is the case because you might agree to the argument that when you have somebody to talk to, there's still a chance to somehow come up with resolutions of any kind. And if Hamas goes and somebody else comes, it's better to deal with the known than the one that is unknown. That was the case also with Syria. That was the case with many other situations and also in the West Bank. So Israel maintains the fact that they don't want to destroy Hamas. They want to keep them alive. And truth of the matter is that though Israel does not talk to the Hamas governing body directly, they allow Egypt to do the go-in-between and talk to a third party. So I don't have a good answer to that, but I can tell you that when it comes to what's going on the surface there, we know that these groups, the Muslims as a whole, and especially the terrorist groups, they love dates. They like dates. They will attack on a certain day to remind everybody that this happened then, and now they come to avenge or to do damage on that particular day. But also, they are very, very impressive. The thinking process is very impressive. And I think what led to this war in Gaza, and nobody talks about it, is that we had in Israel, the last election, a phenomena that came up, and a guy by the name Mahmoud Abbas became now a leader in one of the Palestinian factions in Israel, and he started to talk relatively peace with the governing bodies in Israel that are Jewish. And he was the one that praised the Abraham's Accord with the Emirates and Morocco and Bahrain. And this was something that was totally unpredictable. And the idea of Arabs to be a part of a coalition in the government of Israel showed a possibility that the tension could come to a peaceful solution, and that needed to be stopped. So when Mahmoud Abbas talked to Netanyahu about a possible a group coming together, the people in Iran felt that this is something that is the most unpredictable and horrifying possibility for them, and that needed to be stopped. So a war in Israel and having the Arabs in Israel siding with Hamas would make sure that this coalition between the moderate factions in the Palestinian in the West, in Israel, with the government of Israel will definitely come to an end. And I think if you investigate a little bit and look underground what took place here, I think that was the reason for the last round of war between Israel and Gaza. Well, they'll always find a reason, and that was as good reason as any. And maybe another time we'll talk about what I call a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. Why is a Jew helping the situation that we have now in the United States and backing a movement that is sworn to destroy Israel? I don't know. It's I know that Suzi knows the meaning of tikkun olam. A Jew thinks that he can fix the world, and in every situation, let it be the Soviet Union or even the French Revolution, there are always Jewish people somehow involved in order to fix the world. So from Trotsky to Marx, to everybody, there's always a need for a Jew to insert their ideas. I don't know. That's another program. But I feel that that this war between Gaza and Israel was now to destroy any possibility of a Jew and an Arab in Israel come together and fix things in a way that Bibi Netanyahu offered Mahmoud Abbas, and Mahmoud Abbas was very he was open.
Interesting. Well, Ron, you raise a lot of issues and a lot of shows. One of them is, and we need to do this, the role of God in all of this. I know that's very dear on your heart, on our hearts. So we'll have to do a show on where does God fit into all of this stuff. The Muslims say they're following God. Christians and Jews say we're following God. Nice, non-controversial show. We got to do that. Suzi has a video.
Yeah, well,
you know,
like
but
this
before
is
you
a
do that,
wonderful.
before you do that, I just got breaking news.
Oh,
We at the outset we told you about Mai Golan, the member of the Knesset, who went on a rant and was taken down from the podium. I invited her on the show, and she had agreed early part of the war 2.5 weeks ago. Just invited her again, and she just responded. She basically said that right now there's a moratorium on Likud. No Likud members are going to be doing interviews.
I figured that. I said that the other day.
They're just keeping it quiet. After the dust settles, she'll come on the show because she's a friend of ours. So, all right, Ron,
Well,
we're gonna go ahead.
yeah, we're gonna, you know, this is a wonderful time of year for many students that are graduating. You know, it's the end of the year. They've spent so much time building their professions to contribute to the world. We thought it would be a wonderful thing to show a graduation ceremony of Hamas kindergartners.
Here it is.
يعني سنكون مع فاصل قريب يوضح الطفولة الفلسطينية رياض المجمع الإسلامي.
Another reason we need a new computer.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here it is.
Oh, isn't that just darling?
What are they doing?
Militias, and there they are. Like, what child in America and to kill people? That's not the Judeo-Christian values.
You gotta read the captions here.
Jihad is to kill the infant else. That's not Islam.
Really sad.
Unbelievable. Very,
it's- I mean,
very sad when here we are in America and we are praising our children for graduating to truly be leaders in the community and to emulate the good of the Judeo-Christian values. And this is their values.
Unbelievable. All right, folks. That's it. Ronnie, thank you very, very much. We'll be
Thank
back
you,
to you
Ronnie.
soon. We'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, everybody. John Guandolo. It's going to be a class. It's going to be a
Yeah.
class on the Hamas in the United States as care and what that means to every single American. Take care. See
Bye,
you.
everybody.